How's it going, everybody? This is Dominic Minchella. I am the Kansas City Chiefs co-beat writer for On SI and the host of the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast. Thank you guys so much for stopping in today. So the theme of today's podcast, now that the trade deadline has come and gone, the Chiefs do enter their bye week in week 10. They ended their first 9 weeks of the campaign with a 5-4 record. Now, Patrick Mahomes has said it himself. There's been a lot of inconsistencies and consistencies with the Kansas City Chiefs so far this season. And with a team being as successful as the Chiefs have been since Mahomes took over at the quarterback position, starting full-time back in 2018, it is prominent and it makes sense as to why fans and the league and those who don't even like the Chiefs hold them to such high standards. But I have seen, when going through everything then covering the Chiefs since way back, originally back in January, but getting this position back in April, there's a lot of ups and downs that the Kansas City Chiefs have gone through. Now, obviously, they are not in a playoff position currently. They are still in the cusp of a playoff spot, and there's still a lot of football to have left. I think that some people could be a little fearful too soon when there's so much more football left to be played. And I say that because fans have gotten used to this Kansas City Chiefs team being the top of the AFC West. Yet this season, it has been a very tough division. The AFC West is compiled of I told you going into the season, it was going to be a difficult division for the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's really proven to be true. The Denver Broncos are 7-2, sitting in the top of the division, and the LA Chargers are 6-3. Chiefs are 5-4. Both teams will be played by Kansas City once more in the second half of the season. So I will say that if the Kansas City Chiefs do reflect a record the way that they did throughout the first 9 weeks in the latter half of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't win the AFC West division title. And I don't say that as if that I don't believe in the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that they are still the team to root for, specifically in the AFC, just given the track record. But that is also coming back to hurt them because of the inconsistencies that they've had. They had a chance to go out in the trade deadline to hopefully go out and get somebody. I wrote an article about how a main target that a lot of Chiefs Kingdom, at least from what I had seen on social media, really wanted to see is the addition to the running back room. As we know, the Kansas City Chiefs stayed put. Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt will be the main running backs for the remainder of this season. That is whenever Pacheco does return from his injury. That has been kind of an area where the Kansas City Chiefs have had some ups and downs when it comes to their season. So all in all, when I talk about the state of the roster, I think that there's a lot of things going well. And I think that there's a lot of things that are just underperforming. Specifically, I can go into different things. The run game is not terrific in my mind. I think that other people would have said so, because then they wouldn't have been looking for, or fans wouldn't have been hoping for a running back addition at the trade deadline. Now you're going into the second half of the season, going up against some difficult opponents like the AFC West division rivals, who know you very well, and they know that a weakness on the offensive side of the football is the ground game. Patrick Mahomes had led the Chiefs in rushing yards for a majority of the first half of the season before Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt started getting ground. Even then, Isaiah Pacheco has 329 rushing yards in 78 carries and a singular touchdown rushing. So I think that there is the narrative going into the latter half of the season, especially going into this season, when people said, is this team still a contender? Is this team's dynasty come to a close, or has it? I would say no. until proven that it is. But they do find themselves in a spot where if they don't go to work in the second half of the campaign, then they're going to be seen on the outside looking in. However, just because they are not at the top of the AFC West currently does not mean that they are too far behind. At the end of the day, when you look at this franchise, they have a winning history. They have especially in recent years, and they still have one of the best head coaches in the NFL in Andy Reid. They have a little bit of a washed up tight end in Travis Kelce. Their wide receiving room has come back to life a little bit. But even then, when it does come back to life, the defense, seemingly in games when the Chiefs do want to score a lot of points, the defense has some faults here and there. Specifically, I would say that the best run for the Kansas City Chiefs this season came starting in Week 6 against the Detroit Lions, then going into Week 7 and Week 8. There was their first 3-game winning streak. We haven't yet to see. That was a game where I would even say that the Kansas City Chiefs, their offense is playing very, very well. In the last few games since the loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Chiefs have put up 30, 31, 28 points. The loss to the Buffalo Bills, they put up 21. But in those defeats, they've just allowed way too much. I talked about this earlier in the season, that especially going in, if you're going to win championships, you're going to have a sound defense. The defense last season for Kansas City was tremendous. It had a little hiccups here and there, but it was still a main reason why they got as far as they did. Specifically, that held them back was the offensive line, which they addressed. And even then, the offensive line, especially in the last game against the Buffalo Bills, kind of had 2024 flashbacks. I think that the inconsistency of the Kansas City Chiefs should be a tad concerning for fans, but I do not think that it should be a concerning factor to where they won't be finding themselves playing some playoff football. This bye week should prove a lot about this Kansas City Chiefs team. They are finally able to take a step back. A first long week of where they don't have anything to worry about other than preparing their bodies and making sure that they are good mentally going into a Week 11 matchup against the Denver Broncos, a team that you see again later in the season. Additionally, that follows, they have the Indianapolis Colts and the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving. The November slate for the Kansas City Chiefs is a little difficult. You got the Broncos, Colts, and Cowboys, 2 of which are on the road. It seems like if there's a time to do it and you got to prove it, you're going to have to do it right out of the gates. I'm not saying that the Kansas City Chiefs are a dynasty that is crumbling. I would say that there has been a little bit of retooling and a lot of returns this season that haven't really panned out. But that doesn't necessarily mean or really make me a fearful for the future of the franchise. Additionally, when you are such a good team and had been for a long time, this is just how the ebbs and flows works in the National Football Leagues and rather any professional sport. It's difficult to hold a dynasty. It's difficult to win all the time because the league is forever changing. Going into this season, I told you that I believe that the AFC West was going to be a difficult division for the Kansas City Chiefs to win this season. Thus far, they've had opportunities to win big games, and definitely starting off 0-2 was not the way to get the season started, especially falling to a contender in the division in the Los Angeles Chargers. The Las Vegas Raiders, though they had a lot of promise coming into this season, they have been a very big disappointment, and that's something that the Kansas City Chiefs don't even have to worry about anymore. In the latter half of the season, when looking at the schedule, you've got the Titans and the Raiders in week 16 and 18. You've also got the Houston Texans. I would believe that those are probably the easiest games left on the schedule for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Broncos you face twice. The Colts have proven to be a very difficult team to beat this season, though they are going, especially where we sit right now, they hold a 2-2 home and away record. I do think that it will favor Kansas City because it will be at Arrowhead. But when it comes to the bigger games, this team, a lot of franchises coming in, they know and they want to take down Kansas City because they've been at the top for so long. It's just, if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. And the Kansas City Chiefs are pinpointed as the AFC's man. In my opinion, I think that the state of this roster still has what it takes to be a Super Bowl contender. However, if they do not get things flowing, working well, and fix some inconsistencies, I'm fine with the inconsistencies every now and then. This is a tough football game. The game itself is difficult. You're not going to win every single year, or every single game rather. But I think that this roster is still compiled with the likes of Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce, though he's aged, a two-time MVP, and Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones on defense, George Karlaftis, superstar after superstar after superstar. You just need a few of them to kind of put everything together, and then this Chiefs team is off rolling. I do think that going into Week 11, it will tell a lot about the future of this franchise, specifically for the season, if they will be able to win the AFC West and if they will be able to make a deep run into the playoffs. Let alone you are coming off of a very difficult loss to the Buffalo Bills in a game that really seemed like there was opportunities to win. But all in all, you've got to start winning and having the old Chiefs mentality of letting everybody eat and knowing that you are the best on the field until proven otherwise. And I'm not saying that this Chiefs team doesn't feel that way. I'm saying that it needs to be displayed better. The Chiefs last season, 15-2. Obviously not going to do that, but they've won a Super Bowl championship with a worse record than that. Anything's possible. You got to fight for the playoffs. And all in all, I think that they still have a roster to do it. They just got to put some extra pieces in order. That being said, though, folks, be sure you follow me over on X at Dom Minchella, where I post and repost every single day all things Kansas City Chiefs. You can always follow us over at KC Chiefs on SI, and be sure you sign up for a free newsletter. Everything gets posted there, and some things that we can't publish on the site go directly to you. The best source for the Kansas City Chiefs news is Kansas City Chiefs on SI. As always, folks, be kind to one another. I'll see you tomorrow.